Um, all right, so shall we just jump into this Be Love business together?
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about this journey of love that's brought us here to this conversation and to doing this work together?
Yes. One of the ideas that Swedenborg has is that even when we're very young, we're just always being implanted with experiences of love and connection. Like even if we have a really hard childhood, even if we really struggle. And I really believe that's true, that even if it's just feeling the sunlight on your face or, the simple kind of pleasures of being satisfied, having food, having shelter, having connection, these moments of connection. And so I recognize that I've had many of those moments. And it was in my teenage years that I experienced those moments really strongly through the form of church. And that was when I got involved in the Swedenborg Church Youth League. And it really feels very providential that that happened because I went to my first retreat like totally on my own. And I wasn't the most outgoing kid, but my mother found a flyer and was like, "Hey, you want to try this out?" And I was like, "Okay." And just I think about it now, and I think I must have just, I don't know, been held by angels. Come on, Sage, don't be scared. Just go. And I was just immediately really drawn to that kind of community. And I think about 13, that was the time when I was starting to become really self-conscious and who am I and how do I fit? And heading to that retreat, meeting just like a really interesting mix of strange and beautiful teenagers who really, really cared about each other. Like a lot of these kids had grown up going to Almont, going to camp together. And I think I could sense the love there. So even though I was new and I actually didn't talk much like my first few years of the SCYL, I really had that sense of belonging and being able to be myself and seeing that people like that we could really love each other, like that there could really be this feeling of love and love could be expressed. I mean, um, all of that was just really, it really impacted me. And I think as I said, like, I think I knew that love was present in my younger years. I always knew it was like important and that I was on some deep level, like loved.
Sure.
And I was weird and awkward and I had issues with my family, all this stuff. So anyway, I think that retreat was definitely very formative to why we're sitting here today having this conversation because it gave me this love of church and it gave me this vision of church as this place where you could be yourself and you could really be in these deep loving relationships that were fun and playful and but also where you could talk about what really mattered. And I think of those sessions in the retreats and the different ministers that I met, and they were also all kind of weird and different and, you know, unique. Um, and we talked about stuff, we really like what is and our opinions mattered, and I think I
Hmm.
loved that too. And in contrast to school, I mean, you talk in school, right? But you're being graded and it's about achievement and who's better and who worse. And I loved the vision of church as this place where there was no quiz and there was
Yeah.
no better or worse. Um, and we could really talk about what matters. And when I went to seminary eventually, which I'm not going to give you all the details because we're only going to do this for an hour. But when I went to seminary eventually, it was because of my love of these retreats and wanting to spend my life talking about the most important things with other people in a loving way. Like that's probably like my mission statement for ministry. And I had the sense that ministry was a place where I could do that. And it has been and it hasn't been. And
Hmm.
that's why we're talking today. It has been that, um, I've been ordained now for 20 years and I've had a lot of fabulous experiences of really getting to talk to people about the most important things. And that's one of the role of minister in the world, right? Is like the safe person.
Hmm.
Sometimes, depending
Right.
on if you have church baggage or not. often you become the person that is safe to share the deepest things with. And I feel so honored for how many times I've gotten to be in that place with people, um, especially as a hospice chaplain. I had that experience a lot. I often had that experience in my church settings with people who didn't come to to the church, but they were the people who I was doing the funeral for, or they were the
Mhm.
people who were like coming in and going, which I
Mhm.
think is interesting. I think sometimes people are more willing to share what's most important when they're not going to see you again. So,
Sure.
so sometimes with the congregation, I'll admit that it was not always as easy to get to that deeper part.
Mhm.
And I think that's why we're sitting here today. Is I think I realized after a couple decades of this that as beautiful as congregational life can be, and as much as it feeds people, there are limits to it, limitations to it, especially in regard to just really being with what's going on in life. Sometimes we get so caught up in these big theological ideas, it's hard to really, um, yeah, really connect about just what's going on now. I think a lot of people have more church baggage maybe than we realize. So even if they would come to me for that connection, there'd be like this distance because it's like,
Sure.
you're the minister and I'm the person, and I want you to see me in a certain light, or I want to be seen in a certain light. And sometimes that would get in the way.
Yeah.
And I think all of that, coming into awareness of all of that, um, has motivated me to do this work because I don't like that. I don't want that.
Mhm.
I want to be back in that teen retreat where everybody is equal and we can talk about the most important things and we can love each other, and there's a ease and a freedom and a creativity. I think that's what I started to experience in congregational life, is just a lot of rigidity about how this is all supposed to go and who you are and who I am and how we're going to do the things, and kind of fighting over how we're doing this thing when I'm like, I want to go do that thing. I don't even really care about how this thing goes. Anyway, all of that really came to a head in the pandemic. Because that was really, it was this great opportunity for me. I know it was a horrible time. And I mean, a lot of people died, and I mean, wouldn't wish it upon the world again. And it was a real opportunity for me because I was in a congregation where there was a lot of rigidity and a lot of struggle. Um, so to step away from what we had been doing kind of very rigidly and have the
Mhm.
opportunity to try some new things virtually. And I started a prayer service with my friend Shada in Wilmington. And, it was like all of a sudden there were all these possibilities of
Mhm.
different ways to connect. And it was fun and it was creative. And then when it came time to go back, I was like, "Well, do we want to go back to all of the
Mhm.
ways it used to be? Aren't there different ways we could do this?" And that whole tension, that was such a time of tension for me. Midlife too, I was 46, 47. What are we going back to? 2 decades of ministry, and I'd had lovely experiences, but I really had never been in a part of a congregation that was growing or thriving. Like every single one I was a part of was struggling. And I'm a minister of the new church. Like, this is supposed to be new. This is supposed to be different. And I think all of that was it just became this like pressure cooker for me of, I don't want to do, I don't want to
Uh-huh.
spend the rest of my life, cramming myself into a container that's too small. I don't want to. And it just didn't make any sense to me that I even would. It was like, what huh? Like, what? Is this
Right.
really what
It's
my
like your
life
eyes
had?
were open to different possibility. You couldn't go back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were really open to how much I had sought to fit into this mold that truthfully was never mine to begin with. I mean, I didn't grow up in a church, so I didn't know what ministers even did before I went to seminary. So there was no part of this that was like inherent to me. It was
Mhm.
always exploration. And it was always this desire, just like as very simply to like love other people and talk about the most important things. Like that's what I care about.
Okay.
If I get to do that and you also want me to give a sermon and you want me to I will do all those things. But I got to have that part, I got to have that connection part. And yeah, so that whole pressure cooker, the pandemic, what it really ended up happening is I believe all that pressure, like they often talk about in the spiritual life, it's like it's crisis when we change, right? We don't change when things are great. Right? If
Sure.
things are going
Right.
on
Right.
smooth, we're
Uh-huh.
happy and satisfied, right?
Yeah.
Um, so as painful and hard as that all was, it was really useful for my spiritual life. And it it ended up kind of cracking me open in to the point where I had this very profound experience that I've spoken about a little bit in different venues. Um, for about a week, I was in heaven. That's like the best way to
Mm.
describe it. Like for about a week, my the thoughts in my mind of all the things that should be, kind of all that yammering that we probably are all familiar with, of faster, quicker, smarter, do that a little better. It stopped, Alex. It really just went away. And I've
That
described
must
this
have
in
I
different.
can't even imagine it.
It's
It must
very
have
hard
been
to imagine.
yeah.
The best way to describe it is, if you've seen the movie Contact, if
Mhm.
not, you need to go see it. But there's a scene in the movie where Jodie Foster is going through this. She's going in this alien spacecraft, and the specifications to build the spacecraft did not include any kind of safety seat. But of course, the humans were like, "We got to build a safety seat, or you're gonna not be you're not going to be safe." And so the scene, she's flying through space, and her body is like shaking, and it's all uncomfortable and scary. And then she realizes that her necklace is just floating in front of her, and she's like, "It's the seat." And so she unbuckles herself, and all of a sudden, it's quiet, and now she's just traveling through space, and it's fine. There's no problem.
Uh,
There's no
without
noise.
resistance.
It's
Uh-huh.
without resistance, exactly.
Mhm.
And I actually had been recounting that scene to my therapist about a week before I had this experience, because I was starting to really see and know that I was creating my own suffering. I told my therapist, I was like, "I just have this sense that if I could just unbuckle, like, life would be so much easier." Um, and then really I was given the experience of unbuckling. I was given a glimpse. Again, it was only a week. It did not last, but it was a lovely week. It was a I wasn't just sitting like staring at a wall for a week. Like I was being a mom, I was being a minister, I was driving the car, but I was just doing it in this joy and flow and freedom. And even when like little things happened, like during that week, I parked in a no parking zone, and
Mhm.
I was leaving the car for Ted, for my husband, and it got towed. And so he had to get it from the tow place,
Mhm.
and he calls me, and it was the whole thing to get the kids. And of course I felt badly. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But I sort of knew to immediately like apologize and check if he was okay, and then just let it go. Like I didn't normally I would have really beat myself up about it. So
Sure.
it wasn't even like things all went perfectly, but I was yeah, I wasn't resisting it.
It's amazing. Did you notice it right away that when this started happening, or did it take a while for you to
I noticed it right away. And I
Uh-huh.
actually have journaled quite a bit during that time, and I'm debating when and how to share, because
Mhm.
I did record quite a bit about the experience itself, but it was pretty sudden. It was pretty it was pretty total,
Hmm.
um, right away. And then when it went away, it was also kind of, I mean, it probably creeped in, but then
Mhm.
I definitely became aware that my thoughts were back.
Uh-huh.
And I was sitting on our bed. I became very despairing, 'cause
I
I sort
bet.
of thought
That must have been
I thought
so
I'd cracked the
hard.
code. I thought I'd
Oh,
cracked the code, Alex. I was like, damn, I got this covered.
Uh,
I'm done. I don't have to
yeah.
deal with, you know. And then the thoughts came back and the fear came back and all the stuff came back. And I sat there just crying, and Ted, God bless him, came and held my hand. And I told him, like, my biggest fear is this was all like not real, like that I had just
Mm.
had some kind of, psychotic break that was showing me something false, and now I was back in
Mm.
reality or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
God bless him. He held my hand and he looked at me and he said, "It was real because it's true." That's what he said to me. It just makes me want to cry just even saying
Sure.
it.
Sure.
Um, and I live by that it is real because it's true. That the truth is we are totally loved and cared for and have what we need to face our lives, whatever is going on. And I really, that experience has given me this like knowing of God. It's not a belief anymore. It's a
Mhm.
knowing that there's something going on in here that's pretty great and kind of has our best interest in mind, like that all this machination stuff that we do
Mhm.
that was really I was able to function without it. And
Yeah.
I functioned pretty well.
Uh,
So
it
so
wasn't
there's
adding
like
to your experience?
it wasn't making it any better at all.
Nope.
Um and that's what I've really come to believe is that our minds, they're tools that we can put to use, but if we believe they're running the show, if our brain and our ideas about things is
Mhm.
I believe that's partly why there's just so much suffering on the planet right now, so much anxiety and mental illness and depression. It's just like we've become kind of captive to our brain's ideas about things, which are just like every generational, of trauma and struggle is like we just know every possible thing that could go wrong,
Right.
every,
It's
every
not useful.
second, and that's all we spend our time thinking about. And
Mhm.
that experience gave me this deep sense that underneath all that is just this like love that just is with me just as much as like with the birds and the deer and the bunnies like
Mhm.
that I
Mhm.
have a flow of love in me that wants goodness, wants connection, wants to be of service, wants to love, and I can just trust that and maybe not overthink it. So that experience definitely informs my work today because after having that experience, I was not going to just go back to business as usual and say, yeah, I guess we should just keep doing church the way we've always done it. And I guess we should just keep being grumpy that it's not going better. Like
Mhm.
I had no patience for that. I declared a new church jubilee in my congregation. That was just, to me, that experience was like a glimpse of the new church, the new Jerusalem, this new heaven and new earth that Swedenborg's all his writings are pointing to, and the biblical story is pointing to, right? This experience of rebirth. This was like a rebirth moment. It was a regeneration moment of like, oh, this really can be good, all the prophets, we really can live in harmony. We really can live in harmony inside and outside.
Mhm.
And for me now, that's all that matters to me is just, living into more and more harmony with myself, with in my relationships, with my husband, with my kids, and with other people. And
Mhm.
my sense is that's what the church is meant to be, is a beloved community, right? I have no idea how to make it happen. I didn't come out of that with like, here's your marching orders, but I came out of that experience with a sense of what's real. And my
Mhm.
sense is since then, so that was 2021, it's now 2026. So it's been almost 5 years. It's just been a process of integrating that experience and holding it up against whatever my mind is doing, and really, really kind of going through a process of, is that really true? Is that really
Yeah.
true? Every time a new negative thought comes in, just now it has to meet this deeper knowing that I hold.
Sure. You've got this window or mirror or whatever that allows you to
Mhm.
see what is true to compare
Yeah.
what
And
your
it's not
mind is trying to
immediate.
convince you.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
And it's not immediate. And
Mhm.
sometimes my lower negative thinking feels more powerful than this knowing,
Sure.
but it never lasts. As much
Mhm.
as it gets loud, it's not abiding, which is that's one of the gifts I think is
Mhm.
the truth of love is abiding. The truth of I mean, it's the most obvious truth, right? Like we are all just here on this planet together, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not the only one that's noticed that, right? Like we're all alive on this
Mhm.
planet with these cool human bodies. Like we got to figure out how to get along. like
Yeah.
it's good. I'm glad I exist, I mean, it's and simultaneously like part of coming out of that love is like having that love and then just looking around and being what the hell are we doing? Why are we making each other so miserable? Why are we and I think that's the work I'm in now, and it's pretty painful.
Sure.
I can see why we say ignorance is bliss and why we don't always want to be right here in the love because then your heart breaks, right? Your heart is just
Yeah.
torn open because so many of us are not grounded in that love, right? We're living by these old ideas of
Mhm.
I don't even, we could all name what they are, but just the survival mentality that causes us to compete and protect ourselves and blame each other and create
Right.
enemies, warfare, and all the things that we humans do. Um, it's quite a thing to know that's actually not what's real,
Mhm.
but it's definitely what's seems to be loudest,
Sure.
and most apparent from our brains' perspectives, which so many of us are living from. Um, so anyway, that's how we came to be here now. And
That's quite the journey.
it's yeah, I kind of went on and on, but thank you for listening.
That's okay. Yeah, of course. So how does the motto of the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative, be loved, be honest, be useful, c- what's the connection of that
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
what led you here?
Yeah. Well, I said that I didn't come out of that experience with marching orders, but I
Right.
did I I did receive a lot of
Mhm.
insight. And my sense actually is that by giving me that deep grounding in like what's really real,
Mhm.
I feel like the insights just keep coming. Like now life is just about learning constantly. And I should go back and look and see when this actually happened.
Mhm.
I know I was in my hammock, so it wasn't winter. It might have been spring of 2023 or something. Maybe 2022. It was pretty soon after the experience. As
Mhm.
I said, I declared the new church jubilee. I was like, let's just wonder. Let's just wonder what this new church is. Let's not give up the possibility that this really could be a big, big, big beautiful thing. Um,
Mhm.
and be loved, be honest, be useful kind of just came like a whisper, while I was in the hammock one day as like,
Mhm.
I think that's what I have. I think that's maybe the path to what I'm looking for. Of, of like that's the pathway back to that experience of 2021. Um, and it was really I mean, Swedenborg says God is love, wisdom, and usefulness.
Mhm.
And I really had gotten that love was it. Like, okay, yes,
Mhm.
I'm with you, Swedenborg. It is love. God is love. That's the
Mhm.
substance of everything. That is what is really true about life and what it is to be alive. It's this impulse of love that is totally unconditional, totally embracing, totally powerful. Um, and knowing that, realizing that, experiencing that, and then witnessing all of the not love experiences that we
Mhm.
create and imagine, and and I had certainly been through my share at that point. um Honesty really rose up as like, oh, well, that's, if we're going to get out of these not love scenarios,
Mhm.
we have to be honest about it. We have to see it, we have to name it, we have to tell the truth about it. um and I really at that point had witnessed how that was really what was blocking a lot of love from flowing in a lot of different areas of my life, and specifically in church relationships. And it's part of that thing of like, you're the minister and I'm the this and we have to be this
Mhm.
way, and just realizing that's such a trap for spiritual growth of,
Mhm.
yeah, setting ourselves apart and putting on a face of holiness even when we're, yelling at our partner afterwards, or
Mhm.
so it really felt like honesty was the path to get back to the love. Was that the anytime we're in denial or hiding or, bifurcating, or I'm I'm this way with this person and that way with this person, we're,
Sure.
yeah, we're not letting the love flow. But if we can be honest, then it can flow, and that it's not about, even though it would be lovely if we could all unbuckle ourselves and just flow. And I sometimes imagine that maybe that will happen in my old age. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be what's happening now. So for now, we can't just be love all the time. So we need to bring in the honesty. And and in the last 5 years that I've been doing this, I really believe that to be true, because you end up connecting, you have this love moment. And when people can be honest, they may say some really hard things, that,
Mhm.
but it softened things up, right? It makes it possible for love to move. And then that's where useful activity comes from. That's where um, new possibilities emerge, and healing and reconciliation and all the things that are foundational to the Christian life, forgiveness, all of there's a reason that's at the front, because we're going to keep screwing it up. Like we're going to keep, it just seems to be the way of things that um, we miss the mark with each other, right? We hurt.
Sure.
And so, yeah, be loved, be honest, be useful just really became clear that those were three things I could hold in mind all the time.
Mhm.
And that's what's
And
become
are just as doable by anybody. Like, you don't have to be
just as
a
doable by
religious
anybody.
guru or anything like that. You can be those
Exactly.
things.
And
Mhm.
you don't necessarily get any better at it just because you become a
Right.
religious guru. Exactly. It's hard for all of us. It's
Mhm.
accessible to all of us. It's a way of being that, yeah, can be with you all in time. If that's your intention all the time, to remember those three things, I don't know that you can lose. I so far it's served me. Not that I don't have problems. I have problems, but I know what's needed when they come. Like, oh, okay, time to get honest. Okay, time to act.
Yeah.
Time to be still and remember that love is here. They're kind of iterative, because
Mhm.
if you can just be love, then you're like, you're set.
Mhm.
Don't knock it, just enjoy it. And then if you fall out of the love thing, probably got to get honest. Well, what's going on here? And
Mhm.
and then there's a movement of activity. Oh, well, now I know what I want to do. Now I know what I need. Now I know what other people need. I'm going to act. But then if you start acting so much that you're kind of feeling resentful, or you go
Mhm.
back to the love. So it's like it really feels like it's a loop. Um,
Mhm.
and
And
I've
you're
tried
probably
to,
in different places depending on the topic, right? Or the area of your life. You probably be in love really well over here and s-
yeah,
being useful over there, but without honesty and all sorts of things, probably.
yes, that's a really good
Mhm.
point, and actually very relevant to this moment for me right now. Ted and I just had a husband wife chat before this call, and
Mhm.
damn, it's the hard doing it with him is the hardest. Doing it with
Sure. Mhm.
um and we can talk I mean, we're making progress, and our marriage is really growing, and we're learning about each other, I think, just in many in many ways, like a lot, be love, be honest, be useful has affected our marriage for sure.
Mhm.
And um, it's so much easier to be loved with a group of people I'm just meeting, who I maybe won't see tomorrow. I can do that really easily. When it's somebody who's, folding the towels wrong, or,
Sure.
doing doing this other thing, it's a whole other it's a whole other project. And that's really a huge part of this whole thing for me. Is church is no longer something that's just my profession and I go to do it on Sunday. It's like this motto
Mhm.
is about all the time, and dealing with my children, and there's a lot of challenges to being married and having children in the world right now. Like
Oh,
so
a little
many,
bit, yeah.
so many. What I talked about earlier about our brains, like having like too many ideas about how things are supposed to be.
Mhm.
Like I think my children were born on this planet with all of those ideas in their head. Like I don't even they they have so many ideas about how everything's supposed to be, and so many ways
Mhm.
to be disappointed, and so many feelings, and so much. So so yeah, this work is, at this point for me, ministry and life are fused, and they are about living this motto out in whatever ways long to emerge. And so I'm trying
Mhm.
things, and I'm collaborating with others, and just trying to feel into what they want to do, and just really wanting to listen for how um what I trust is, if the new church is living in me, forming in me, it will start to form around me, and the ways to do it with others will come. And so far, that's been true. And we've
Yeah.
had things to do, and people to hang out with, and conversations to have. And I kind of see the collaborative Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative as like a place to incubate new church life in many ways, in many different
Mhm.
forms. Because that's sort of my commitment now, is like the church is primarily within, it's primarily our ability to be loving and honest and useful.
Mhm.
We can do it any way we want, and the way it's been happening is lovely. And for those who love that, and I want to support it and help to nurture those
Mhm.
communities. And other people might want to do community in a totally different way. God did
Yeah.
not ordain that we had to listen to organ music or have liturgies, like all of that stuff is just what humans have come up with.
Right.
And it's lovely. And it's a big, big, big world with many possibilities. So I feel,
There's not just one way to do it.
and you can be loved, be honest, be useful
Mhm.
any way you choose. So
Anywhere you are. What are some
yeah.
spaces that you've talk a bit about the spaces that have been created for this
Yeah.
experience? The
Yeah.
podcast and Substack.
Right. So once I had the experience, came back kind of, whoa, guys, let's wonder, let's imagine.
Mhm.
I declared this jubilee, and then I really, I was still serving at the Swedenborg Chapel as the pastor, so
Mhm.
I was still holding that space and holding that kind of model of community and connection. Um, but I had to try more things, and I wanted to try
Mhm.
more things. Um, the vision for the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative had already emerged. That actually emerged before the pandemic. And it
Mhm.
was initially envisioned to be a physical space in Cambridge at the Swedenborg Chapel. The thought
Mhm.
was to rehabilitate the church, to make it accessible, and then to
Mhm.
create a new space that could honor Helen Keller's spiritual legacy and life. Um, so that vision was already there. I
Mhm.
think before the pandemic, the vision was like, let's do more things to celebrate how we are church, and like hopefully get some more people to come to church on Sunday. Like
Mhm.
it was almost framed like a library or like a museum, kind of
Mhm. Mhm.
really honoring Helen Keller, which would have been lovely. And I still
Mhm.
hold out some hopes that one day there'll be many Helen Keller spiritual life centers around the world.
Mhm.
Like it's a beautiful vision, I think, for how a church building could reimagine itself to
Sure.
continue to hold worship, and hold the sacredness of its current form, but then to make space for new forms to coexist. That was always the
Mhm.
vision of that. Anyway, I told the story of the pandemic and my experience and becoming kind of radicalized. Once I came out, I really the vision of the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Center started to I started to know that I wasn't ready to just devote my life to building a museum or a library kind
Mhm,
of honoring Helen, that I actually had to honor Helen. And
mhm.
I really think Helen was active during the pandemic. She was marching with the Black Lives Matter movement. Like she was like, this is what we got to do. You know, she would not want a museum or a library. She would want something radical. She was a communist and she was out there. She like me, I think, she believed that it could be way better than it is. That love
Mhm,
was the ground of our being. And so she spent her life dedicated to important causes, wanting to bring about the new heaven and the new earth, which um was what I'm dedicated to as well. So,
it was I just it makes me think Swedenborg didn't want a religion and Helen Keller didn't want a building,
yes.
right? Like,
Yeah,
neither one of those
both
things.
of
If we're
them.
gonna honor either one of them,
It's
then
we might
one
need to
way to
think.
do it would be to not do a building or religion.
Yeah, one way to do it would be to think
Mhm,
outside the box. Exactly.
mhm,
Neither of them were like, let's just keep going as we're going, right? They were,
mhm,
yeah, they were speaking into being like a truly new paradigm of life,
mhm,
which after the experience that I had, I can only believe that the path to a new paradigm of life ever happening on this planet is going to be because people have that experience. People start to recognize that love is at the ground of their being. People start to acknowledge that we all just live here together on this planet and we better figure it out. Like
mhm,
that turn, and it's not mysterious or mystical. It's just like the truth that for
mhm.
some reason we've spent we've spent generations denying, with all
Right.
of our policies of prejudice and nation states and all the things that we've come up with. Um,
Sure.
but my sense is that it's that paradigm shift that actually would have the potential to bring peace on earth, would have the potential. It's not going to be because some great leader comes and tells us and we all finally follow in line. It's going to be this return to a sense of our original wholeness, and then a willingness to live from that, a willingness to be ourselves, a willingness to be honest and useful and co-create new ways of doing, new ways of living. Um, so yeah, no Helen Keller Center. This is a collaborative. This is a
Mhm,
collaborative. This is about people coming together as equals to collaborate and co-create new things.
mhm,
From this essential, like from our original wholeness, and my sense is that's already happening all around the planet. Like, I don't think I'm like coming up with the idea and like, come on, guys. Like, people are doing this. Like, the people in Minnesota are doing this right now as they collaborate to protect the town from ice. Like, people are getting this message, and I'm just one of them getting the message.
sure.
And the form that I'm trying to create is really just spaces for conversation.
Mm,
Um, because that seems to be what I'm most interested in. That was what
mhm,
my original call was. Like, let's talk about the most essential things. And we
mhm,
have this amazing technology that we're using right now. You know, we have all these ways to come together around the globe, to talk about this new paradigm of the new church. And my sense is my call is to have that conversation with other new church people, with other people who are inspired by the vision of Swedenborg and doing their best to live it out and maybe ready to try some new things. And that's kind of what's emerged so far is finding those people celebrating their how their journey is emerging and changing, and then finding ways to connect and collaborate. And I certainly would. I have I have maybe a vision or a dream of like having really integrated community like on this, in my neighborhood, and all of this connection in the physical realm. Like, certainly
mhm,
that would be like my ideal preference. Um, and it's not accessible to me right now,
mm,
but this is accessible to me. And so I am
mhm,
pretty excited for how to use the technology of the internet as a way to connect. Um, while also connecting at retreats, which is how this whole thing got
Yes.
started. So it's kind of a cool emergence to be cultivating conversations online. And I do that with the Be Love podcast, where I interview people to hear their story of love. Um, I do that. I'm doing that in our creation series right now. And getting to live into sort of the other part of it, which is we all have different gifts to bring. And it's been so cool to bring together these different leaders for the creation series who have been drawn to different modalities for holding space for people to talk about the most important things and get to know themselves better. Um,
Mhm.
and and then I also have my Substack where I write articles each Sunday, or poems or prayers, or and that's a space where I really try to reflect on this worship is life business.
Mhm.
What's really going on in my personal life, and how am I learning, how am I growing, how am I going through this process of integration. um, and I have many more dreams, many more ideas for how this all could come together. And really learning, though, to to trust, to trust what's coming. I think that I'm in the stage now of creating where I'm really responding to the energy that's coming back to me. So when people show
Mhm.
up and say, "Oh, I'm really into this and I want to join in," I want to hear from them. What are you excited about? And how do you want to
Sure.
connect? Um, and it's been great to see that start to happen, that people are hearing the message, getting in touch, and then
Mhm.
taking that next step to say, let's co-create something together. Because that's really the vision, is for this to become a kind of a multivalent virtual community where people are connecting in lots of different ways, both online in conversation, but then in person at retreats, and maybe at other things, maybe pilgrimages to sacred places that were important to Helen Keller.
Mhm.
Who knows? Um,
A walk
feels like
around the world?
my big vision. Alex knows me. I have these big visions. Lately, watching these monks, for walking for peace, has been so inspiring to so many of us,
Mhm.
and I love that they're doing it. And I love all the people who are coming out to watch them. And it's interesting with this, like, you're the holy person and we're the ones watching you. And they are the holy people right now. I mean, they are walking
Right.
around the earth. They are,
Mm.
I am not in any way
Right.
detracting from their holiness.
Uh-huh.
And, like, wouldn't it be cool to walk around the world, but not just me walk around the world? Like, I'll walk my 30 miles and then the next team will walk the next 30 miles,
Mhm.
like, to give all of us a chance to do that, to make that witness without giving our whole lives to that. And I think that's one of the ways we've thought about religion in the past, is like, some people give their lives to religion. They become ministers or priests or monks or nuns or holy people. And then the rest of us, we just come to them to, like, be inspired, be blessed, be, sick, whatever the thing is.
Mhm.
And that model of what it is to be religious is beautiful. And it's, I'm not detracting from that model either. But and I think for a lot of us on the planet right now, like, we want our own holiness. Like, I don't want to go
Mhm.
to a guru anymore to receive blessing. I don't want to feel like I have to go to a sacred place to be made holy. I still want there to be sacred places, and I hope we keep investing in them, so don't
Sure.
misperceive me. But but yeah, I think for a lot of us, and I think this is a sign of the coming of the new church, is a lot of people are ready to take their own lives seriously, the sacredness of their own lives, the power of their own lives, and
Mhm.
and they want to give their lives to God, right? We want to love our children and our communities. We want to be made beautiful. Like,
Mhm.
we want to take we want to take all of that very seriously, and we can. And God is speaking to us, and so we're not looking for sacred community to, like, receive that blessing from. But I think as we kind of wake up to our own holiness, we want to be in community with others who are also doing the same, so we can bless each other and buoy each other up when, you know, when we're down. And
Mhm.
So I love the idea. Yes, I would like to walk around the world with the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative. If you're listening, please get in touch if you would like to lead a team, because we could do that.
You could do
I'm
that.
planning to go to Kenya in October. So I could we could cover at least 50 miles across Africa, you know,
Mhm.
let's do it.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things I hope to inspire is like, we can do things. We can do exciting things. And
Mhm.
maybe I won't get to walk around the planet, but maybe I will, maybe I will,
Mhm.
because I have this sense I want to use the second half of my life really well, and I think a lot of
Mhm.
people have that feeling right now. Like the world is on fire. It's not like going fine and we can just like, you know, wait a little while and everything's going to go back to normal. Like the only
Mhm.
path forward in my mind is radical reinvention. It's seeing beyond the chaos of the moment to what would a thriving life really look like? What would a thriving community really look like? And what do I really want? Which I think
Mhm.
again comes back to be loved, be honest, be useful. Is I have a deep faith that God is the divine God, whatever word you want to use, the source of life that created you. It like it like knows some things. Like it created butterflies. Like
Mhm.
it's trustworthy.
Mhm.
And if we can be in alignment with it, if we can honor it, feel grateful for it, be honest about how it's going for us, like I think that's going to lead somewhere good. I just really do. I really
Yeah.
think that is what will bring about the creativity that we all long for, is really honoring the whole thing. And it's not easy and it's not
Mhm.
simple and it's not pain free, because part of coming into that honesty is grief, for all of the harm we have been involved in or allowed or
Mhm.
perpetrated. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of work that's
Sure.
required to live from that standpoint. And at this point in our history of life on this planet, like I think we're at that point where like the pain of staying the same is like worse than the pain of change, because what
Mhm.
is such a mess. So maybe we're ready to. And what my experience in 2021 gave me was like, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so good. It really can be so good. It really can be so, and it not even can be, like it is good. Like at the core of this moment right now, even with the towels being not folded the way I wanted, and with,
Mhm.
obviously a lot of other problems on the planet, there's
Mhm.
this goodness, there's this beauty, there's this love, there's there's a reason we're all still here. And I think my hope is that we can all my prayer is that we can all taste it, because I know it feels far away for a lot of us, and
Mhm.
I know I feel very blessed to have had the experience I had. And I know not everyone has had that to really trust it. And like, I don't know if you want to just believe me, maybe. But, I'm not the only one who's come back and reported that. Like a lot of people have come back and reported that. Like it seems to be a pretty consistent message with
Sure
every,
does. Yes.
mystic or teacher,
Mhm.
of every tradition, that there is this goodness. Um, the work is to get aligned with that goodness, to trust it, to keep surrendering to it, really, to keep saying, okay, yep, here I
Mhm.
am again. And ooh, I've fallen away. So I have a lot of hope at this moment for the future and what's emerging. And it feels to me like what Swedenborg predicted was going to happen. He
Mhm.
said in 1757, I believe, correct me, Swedenborgian nerds, he said, a new church is descending. It's coming into being. It's going to be different than the way it used to be. And when he uses the word church, he's really speaking about how we connect to God is going to change. And I think that change is, we're going to recognize that that connection is in here first and foremost.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we're going to maybe wake up from this illusion that we've been living in of believing ourselves to be separate, unworthy, always needing to be better than someone or worse than someone or
Mhm,
at
mhm,
odds with life in general. And I feel like there's so many signs that not only is that change happening for people, but that people are being given equipped to help others make that change. You know, all of the work
mhm,
of trauma healing that's happening around the planet and nervous system regulation and there's just so many modalities that are emerging to help people heal from that belief in separation or unworthiness
mhm.
and kind of come back to that sacred ground. And it's um so
It's just really standing out to me how, um, personal of an experience it is, this worship and life,
yeah.
and that the being loved, be honest, be useful, like, that way of doing it feels very accessible and very, like, meaningful because it's really is an inward thing. Like, when I think of be honest and, like, our like, experiences even we have had in doing this work together, it's like, the being honest isn't like, uh external this thing happened and it's true or you did this, there's not blame or anything like that. It's being honest about it. Really takes some time to like check in with yourself. What is really true for me and not true? Like, I know lots of people talk about like, oh, there's truth, there's not just my truth and your truth, but there is some my truth. There's truth of the feelings and experiences that I'm having and the thoughts that I'm having, and it's being honest about those and being curious about those and not pointing fingers about them. Like, we all have our thoughts and experiences and whatever, and just
Yeah.
to remove the shame from it and
Yes.
instead look at it with curiosity
Yes.
and wanting
You
to
hit
grow, understand, and
Yep.
can we connect when we share and all those things.
Mhm. Yeah. You hit it on the head. And the words I learned recently from Chelsea Odhner, who does this work through with internal family systems and Swedenborg, compassion and curiosity.
Mhm,
That honesty is to be honest, we have to first be compassionate and then we got to get curious. And that's
mm,
so on. Those two words are so important. The truth is, judgment, if you're having a judgment, then you just think you know everything. You're playing God. You're like,
right.
I know it's
Mhm,
this way. And so many of the ways we think about our experience, especially of truth, is like
mm,
really shutting us off from actually knowing.
yeah,
And really and being honest, exactly. It's this invitation to just here I am, maybe I've done absolutely everything wrong. Like maybe that's the truth of this moment. What's going to give me the humility to accept that? It's got to be curiosity and compassion, right? Otherwise,
mhm,
I'm going to just shut off. I'm not going to look at that.
right.
I've mentioned it before, and I wrote an article on my Substack. I love the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mhm,
And the whole premise of it is the woman who's the savior of the movie is the version of her that did everything wrong. So she's the one who made like every bad choice. She like ran from everything, didn't try, and that
mhm,
she's the one that can then save the universe. And I think that's so beautiful and it's so resonant with Christ's message. There's no score keeping happening. There's no
right.
and all of our systems of shame are really false. They're false. They're false systems that keep us small. But if we can remove that and just really be open to looking, that's how we can really grow. And that's how we might even find that like maybe we made all the perfect mistakes that were preparing us for this moment to be
Mhm,
able to step into goodness. Like we just have no idea what our where our life story is bringing us. And it's my experience. And I mean, I've talked to a lot of people on the spiritual path in my 20 years. Like I've yet to meet a totally lost soul. Like I've yet to meet someone who's like, "Oh yeah, they just they screwed it all up and there's no hope." Like it just there's always something. There's always a possibility. And I really believe that that something is always there like for multiple lifetimes too. Like maybe we won't figure it out in this lifetime, but
mhm.
there's something there's always something that's possible at any given moment. And I'm really trying to train myself when I do start to notice that I've been making some choices that have been causing harm to celebrate to celebrate that
Well,
awareness.
like noticing,
It's
yeah.
hard. It's hard, but I'd
Mhm,
love for us to build that culture in the collaborative of like Yeah, not like, "Yay, you for being such a jerk," but like,
Right.
"Wow, good for you for noticing this." Because the truth is you
Mhm.
did the best you could while you were doing it,
Right.
and you're only noticing it now because your consciousness has grown a bit and you can do a little bit better, and that is something
Mhm.
to celebrate, and I think that's about living without resistance, right? I think that's what I was able to do when I had that experience is notice the problem, apologize, repair, do all the repair, but then let it go because
Um,
and I think we gotta let a lot of things go, um,
yeah.
if we're gonna step into this new paradigm of life, and so much so much repair and reconciliation is
Mhm.
going to be needed, already is needed. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. How
That's
long
where
have we
you're at
been
now.
yammering? And we've
Good
been
place to be.
yammering for over an hour. We gotta stop.
Well, it's just been such a pleasure to be working on this with you and having conversations with you like this all the time, and I just am so grateful for you
Well,
and for what you're bringing into the world and being a part of it.
thank you, Alex. Well, I am grateful for you to be a collaborator because definitely the truth of all of this is I cannot do this by myself. I can be loved, be honest, be useful for a little while with myself and my journal, but it's not the life I want to live. I want to do this in community. So thank you
Sure.
for being a part of that community.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
And I love it when we both are in